In this video, I'm going to give my honest thoughts on the Hill HX50 helicopter.
That's like autopilot, dude.
How do you fly a helicopter? Well, I'm going to show you. For anyone that doesn't know, the HX50 is a brand new helicopter that's in production, in design, and I have to say it's a very cool helicopter, very exciting helicopter. And so how we're going to do this video is last week, which was, I guess, December 9th of 2023, Hill had this presentation where they finally unveiled the HX50 in a presentation. And they filmed it, so it's about an hour and a half long video. So we're going to go through, I cut down all the points that I want to talk about, so I've already watched this, but we're going to go through, we're going to watch the really important clips that I found, and we're going to talk about it. And then at the end, I'll kind of give my final thoughts on this, but this is really exciting. It's really cool, but I definitely have some questions. So sit back, relax, and we'll get into it. So hopefully I don't get copyrighted for this and they let me share this video with you, but I'm going to play this on 1.5 speed. So if you need to slow it down, if it's going too fast, you can slow it down on this video, or I'll leave the link to the actual presentation in the description below, but I'm going to keep it a little bit faster just so we can get through this. 7 minutes in, the presentation actually starts, the curtain drops, and then you get to see the two helicopters. But the first one that they talk about is modeling the lifestyle of the helicopter and who their target audience is.
Okay, we're going to go straight into it tonight. We've got two HX50s here for you, one on wheels, one on skids. We're going to give you a tour of the whole thing, and then I'm going to get out of the way, and you can come and have a play. So let's get straight into it. We promised you a proper helicopter, a helicopter with standing, with posture, a helicopter that when you turn up at the hotel or the golf club, the guys that see you arrive think, who is that? And their wife thinks, who's he? And their kids think, I want to be just like him. And this is what we set out to do. So this is HX50.
So like I said, just immediately getting straight into who their target audience is, the rich person that wants a helicopter, and this is for them.
One of the key design inspirations for this, one of the key design drivers, was trying to bring general aviation back up to the level of design quality, the level of design standards that we're all akin to in the automotive industry and every other area of our life. So as you go and you get close and you experience the machine, you'll find that we've got A-class surfaces everywhere, automotive levels of design.
So I'll show you a little bit later in the video what I'm talking about, but the most luxurious car I've ever been into and had the pleasure of driving was a Mercedes S550. Extremely luxurious. Every detail is perfect. It feels so comfortable. It feels like a spaceship, and it's just extremely luxurious. The inside of this helicopter looks like that. And so to make the point even more clear, I'll let them explain it and then I'll share my thoughts, but this is really the target audience.
So let's start at the front. So one of the key design cues down here, we wanted the whole thing to have all of the features that top automotive products have. So you'll find at the nose of the helicopter, we've kept this under wraps for quite a long time, we present a 3D form of the Hill badge, the butterfly wings, right there at the front of everyone. That's our version of Rolls-Royce's Spirit of Ecstasy. We have an automotive cluster at the bottom.
So like right there, they're clearly targeting luxury. They talk about the Spirit of Ecstasy from the Rolls-Royce, that little angel that comes out of the hood, extreme luxury. They're trying to do that here. So as we get more into the design, one of the first things that they talked about was the lights and the nav lights. I'll let them explain it, but I think this is actually a pretty cool idea.
That runs all the way along the length of the airframe was a key styling feature, and we've accentuated that by building in this chrome strip that runs all the way from the chin windows through to the back. So the bright wear that you come to expect.
That's nice, dude.
The bright wear that you come to expect on a premium automotive product. And then of course,
so they've got this running nav light LED light bar that goes down the side of the helicopter. So instead of just having your red and green position navigation lights on the side of the helicopter, they have this entire light strip. I'm curious to see if this will actually make it into the final production and the final shipment helicopters, if this will actually be a design feature. But I think it's pretty cool, and I think it actually can aid to safety. Those individual red and green lights on the side of helicopters, they're good, but an entire light strip, you definitely know what side of the helicopter you're looking on. It makes me question if there's going to be problems with glare or how that will actually work in flight, but I think it is a cool idea, and the whole point with the helicopter is they've got really cool ideas. So as they're talking about the design of the helicopter, they move up to the rotor system and the rotor hub, and they talk about the reason why they have an enclosed rotor hub. I guess they call it similar to like a donut design, but the entire rotor hub is enclosed, and this is to reduce drag. I'll let them explain it, and then I'll talk a little bit more.
Still remember that some of the very early presentations I explained that the forward flight speed of helicopters isn't, for operational speed ranges, isn't limited by advancing tip Mach numbers and retreating blade stall. It's actually that they're just really draggy. So one of the things that has been a key design philosophy all the way through the program is retractable undercarriage to get those out of the way, cowl in the main rotor pylon, get that out of the wind. So when you look at that beautiful piece of sculpture on the top of the airframe, that's not artistry. That is essentially an airfoil profile if you were to cut it in section, into which we've sculpted in the inlets for the engine and the exhaust to get the air through the system. So that really is one of the fundamental things that drives the forward flight performance.
So you can see here, here's your engine inlet scoops, and then you've got this big dome up to a circular donut where the entire rotor system is contained. I think it's actually a pretty beautiful design. It's very nice to look at. You know, you don't have any exposed pitch pull rods, pitch links, your swash plate is enclosed. I think it 100% probably does reduce drag. Now, as a pilot, some of my concerns are pre-flight. It seems very difficult to see anything in here. You know, you want to check your pitch links. You want to check that you've got grease, that everything is tight, that you've got your torque stripes. I'm not sure you can see all this in here, and maybe there's a different way to look in here. Maybe they've got cameras, I don't know, but I don't see a good way to climb up, let alone look inside there to see things. And just as a pilot, you want to do your pre-flight, you want to see inside. So I've got some questions on that. I'm sure it does reduce drag, but I do have some concerns about checking the quality and checking the operational safety of the helicopter. So as they're still talking about the rotor system, they talk about how the blades attach to the helicopter and how they attach to the hub. I'll let them explain a little bit.
Well, how does that work? Because it looks like magic to me.
It is black magic. It is magic. Yeah, it is magic. Yeah, we'll talk about the rotor head itself over there a little bit later.
But I'm thinking about the way the blade attaches to the...
Yeah, exactly. So it's essentially a slightly newer take on a very old way of doing it. Yeah. And so we've got two pins out there that transfer the lag motion into the cuff and into the lag damper. And those two flaps that you can see at the root of the blade are essentially a blade fold mechanism.
You know, I was really surprised.
Yeah.
I saw these things being installed, and they were quick. I mean, they were simple.
So I think this is a great design. This is obviously a problem with a big helicopter. A 3, 4, 5 bladed helicopter is most of these helicopters, you cannot adjust the blades, and you can't move the blades to store the helicopter. So allegedly with this helicopter, you can pull the two pins out or pull one of the pins out and then rotate the blade, and then the helicopter can be streamlined with the profile of the helicopter. I think that's a big thing. You know, storing helicopters is a big problem. You need hangars, especially a nice helicopter like this. And if you can just make that profile significantly smaller and you don't have the entire disc, that's a good thing. I don't know if there's any problems or concerns with this. If you've got private owners constantly messing with the rotor head and the blades, moving the blades, putting the pins back in, maybe that's a concern, but maybe they can make it in a way that's safe. I think it solves a good problem. I think it's a cool solution. I obviously have my questions about practical application. They keep working their way down the helicopter, then they get to the tail rotor, which is the fenestron enshrouded tail rotor. Obviously a much safer design than exposed tail rotor. They'll talk about the performance here. I personally have flown an enshrouded fenestron tail rotor, and a lot of people complain, some people complain about the tail rotor authority, and if you still can make the nose do what it wants, and I've never had a problem with it. You can go watch some of my videos about the Cabri G2. Beautiful helicopter, and it's got a fenestron tail rotor too. I never had a problem with the tail rotor authority. Obviously, you still have to be alert on the pedals, and you can't let the nose get away from you, but a fenestron tail rotor, they're great. I have no complaints about them. I'll let them explain a little bit.
Yeah, so the beauty of ducted fans, of course, is they're a lot quieter, they're a lot safer. It's much harder to stick this into something that's going to send you spinning around.
Yeah. I mean, you could try, but it would be pretty hard to get your head in here, I think, right?
You find me the person that didn't turn my mic on.
Oh boy.
So with the tail rotor itself, we've got a large chord blade here, so we've got lots of authority. People
like what kind of authority we're talking? Because I know that one of the common questions is, yeah, shrouded tail rotors, they can lack in authority.
No,
what are we talking about?
This has been designed to be able to maintain directional control at 35 knots from any direction at max gross weight at 10,000 feet on an ISO plus 15 day.
So for anyone that's not a helicopter pilot, I'll kind of just explain what they said there, that you can have total tail rotor directional authority, tail rotor control at 35 knots at 10,000 feet at a hot day at max gross weight. So this is when the helicopter is operating at its max performance. It is in the harshest conditions. It has tail rotor authority at 35 knots in any direction. Pretty impressive. That is what you'd expect from most helicopters in this category. A Bell 407 and A-Star has the same characteristics, so it's good that it can keep up with those.
Ground effect at 10,000 feet, wind blowing from any side or the back.
This will keep you pointing in the right direction.
Wow. Who would fly that those conditions? I mean, that's limit.
So then they start talking about the two designs. You've got the wheeled version and then you've got the skid version. So the coolest thing they talk about here is called the HeliMove system. And I guess what they're saying here is when you're in the helicopter, or you can use your phone, the system can move the helicopter. So you can drive the helicopter using the wheels, just using maybe the touchscreen on the inside of the helicopter or your phone to pull it in and out of the hangar. That's really cool, especially for personal owners who want to unhanger their helicopter. Moving a big helicopter like this is very difficult. Most of these helicopters, you'd have to land on a dolly, push the dolly in with a tractor and pull it out that way, which is pretty challenging and time consuming, but if you can just use your phone, that's pretty cool. So I'll let them explain a little bit.
Okay, so from my point of view, generally, I'll stand over here so people can see. From my point of view, in general aviation, you've got to try and make the whole experience of flying as easy as possible. So when the helicopter's in the air, that's great, but once you're on the ground, you really need to be able to move these things around conveniently and effortlessly. So the wheel undercarriage makes that a lot easier than the dolly wheels and the wheelbarrow thing that you have to do.
This is the sales pitch for this, the wheeled version.
And obviously, one of the options that you can select for the wheeled version of HX50 is HeliMove, which gives you the ability to drive this thing electrically on the ground via your smartphone or the in the cabin. So it just means getting it out of the hangar and putting it away again, and much simpler than it's ever been before.
So you're saying I could sit inside the helicopter, press a button, hangar doors open, and I could drive it into the hangar from inside the helicopter?
Yeah, that's the whole point. We've got to make it as easy as possible.
With the puck or the app?
Either. Probably the puck when you're inside.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk.
Obviously very aspirational. Using this technology, I don't know how difficult that is to actually develop. Pretty aspirational, but this is like if you're listening to private owners, what they want, this is the type of system they want. So when you take all these inputs from private owners, people that just want a personal helicopter, that's the type of system they want. And I think that's really cool. If they can actually deliver on this helicopter, get it produced with some of these features that they're talking about, they're in for a really, really successful product. So continuing to move through the helicopter, they talk about the luggage area. They've got a super large luggage area for bags. I guess you can fit a full set of golf clubs in here, which is awesome. Luggage is always pretty challenging in a helicopter. If you're only flying with one person or maybe another person, you can always throw bags in the back seat. But if you've got a fully loaded helicopter and you're taking your family, you do need a large storage area. To have this is pretty great. It's a very large storage area. I'll let them pull the bags out. You'll be able to see it's a very large storage area.
All right, I'm going on a business trip and I'm going to do this presentation. I have some. Okay, there you go. Let's look at this one here. Okay. All right.
I think I'm going to go golfing, so I got to grab my golf bags.
Wait a second. Okay, there's a little small one here.
This isn't a trick, by the way. This is all in
The other side is not open, by the way. Okay, another one.
Hey, Jace, can I get your hand over here?
Okay.
I don't know if I can be able to hold the door on this one.
And another one.
There we go.
You're still going over there? I thought you were done.
And
Is that enough?
a backpack. Everything in there.
So you can
Are we
really
going snowboarding as well?
you can really go places in this helicopter.
So you can see they got a lot of suitcases in there. That's pretty substantial. I fly the 407 regularly and we're always flying bags. I don't know if I can really fit even that many bags, so it probably does have an even larger storage area. So next they're going to kind of move on to the interior, and I'm just going to let this run through. This is where you're going to be spending the time. It's one of the more exciting parts, just looking at the interior. And just a couple thoughts. It's extremely nice, extremely luxurious. Like I said, I'll throw up a picture of the Mercedes S550. Just extreme luxury, really comfortable. That's what this helicopter looks like, you know, like a Range Rover, even like a Rolls Royce. So we'll let that play through. I'll stop it where I think there's cool things. We'll talk about the cyclic, which is really interesting. I'll let it play through.
Let's go and take a look inside.
Let's go. You want to go? Okay, let's go inside.
Ooh. So, another little piece of detail.
Nice.
Helicopter door handles are often quite simple. They're often afterthoughts. They're often things that have no consideration to the experience. We've gone for the sort of flush-fitting swaddle door handle, so it pops proud, opens up, and away you go. So again, trying to give you that car-like feel. And then one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we lived up to modern expectations for vehicles when you enter the helicopter. So when you come and have a look inside, you'll find the doors are all properly trimmed with door cards. The grey areas, which are the thresholds between the outside and the inside, are all very well executed. And then if you just have a look at the door threshold down there, Rob, we've put proper branded tread plates between the inside and the outside.
I mean, that's a nice feature. I think it's cool. It definitely increases the luxury factor.
Proper
for those commercial operators, eh?
Exactly. Well-fitting carpets, well-fitting carpet mats, everything that you'd expect from a really high-end premium product. So again, when you come inside the helicopter, then what we're trying to create here is a cosseting cabin environment that makes you feel secure. If you're trying to get people in from outside of aviation that are new to aviation, you don't want their first thought to be, oh, is this safe? You know, you want the cabin to be reassuring. You want it to be car-like. If you look at the beams that we've got.
That's a good point. You know, if you're flying tours or if you're just flying grandma or brothers and sisters-in-law, people that have never been in a helicopter, even your extended family, your kids, when you put them into a helicopter like this, they're probably going to feel safer because it's very luxurious. You know, it feels comfortable, feels familiar. Like, for example, if you step into like I don't know, maybe a Robinson or an Enstrom or specifically like an MD500, that just feels so foreign. It's so tall. It's very industrial. But for people that have never been in, this can ease their comfort, make them feel safer.
Around the structure,
it feels substantial.
They're of familiar proportion, so the kinds of things that you'd expect. The whole cabin is trimmed in the finest quality materials that are available, exactly what you would expect from a premium car. So you can see the roof cappings are all trimmed in leather. You've got the nose pillar, the A pillar, the B pillar, all trimmed all the way down to the carpet threshold at the base. And then the center console itself is again a very automotive design. It's all about creating a beautiful environment in which,
like, this just looks like a car. The leather, the silver, the black, the screens, it just looks like a new off-the-line Mercedes or a Range Rover even.
To go flying. The other thing to note as well is, like I said, we want this to feel like a magic carpet ride. So I want everybody in the helicopter to have the best seat in the house. So each seat has an amazing.
I think this is the best seat in the house.
So I just want to move quickly, just talk about the flight controls real quick. All right, so here he's going to talk about the cyclic and the flight controls. I'll spend a little bit of time on this. Really interesting, really important to talk about.
Has come together beautifully. So let's talk about the flight environment for a minute. We have characteristic gooseneck cyclic, and the whole point of this is that the thing moves up and down, so you can move it out of the way to get in. So when you climb into the helicopter, it's really comfortable. You can then drop the cyclic down.
You're gonna fly.
Are we gonna go flying?
Not yet, but almost.
Well, drop the cyclic down, so it's at a perfect height, no matter what your size or build.
Try this out.
And then what we've got in front of us here is an environment like.
Okay, so that gooseneck cyclic, I have to tell you, I've never seen this before. I don't know if this is a new design. He says it works just like a normal cyclic. I guess I would really just have to fly it and understand. It seems slightly confusing for me, but maybe it's not. If it works exactly like another cyclic, like any other cyclic, I've flown multiple different cyclic styles, you know, like the Robinson T-Bar, the 407 or the Cabri where it's right in between your legs, like you'd expect, and it goes down into the floor. It just looks different. It looks, I don't know, it's just a completely different design. I'm not hesitant to it. I've never flown it, so I don't know what it feels like, and I don't know if it's really that comfortable, but it's a cool design, and I like that you can get in, have it come up, and then when you're ready, you just lower it down into the position. Pretty cool.
No other for VFR flying. So even though we've got two 15.6-inch screens in front of us, you've still got an amazing down angle. I don't know about you, but I can see about a meter in front of the nose.
Absolutely,
half a meter to a meter in front of the nose.
All the renders make it look like these are really big and they're right in your face.
No.
But they kind of disappear. They're down low, they're back nice, perfect position.
They're much lower than they think they are. And then, of course, you've got the backlit cyclic head. So you've got your autopilot controls, autopilot off, your frequency plus and minus, and your flip switch. The collective is fully integrated with the center console. Now, we get lots of comments about the collective. Oh, where's my handbrake on? The whole idea is if you're going to have a center console in a helicopter, then your arm movement needs to be front and back. Otherwise, you can't use the armrest. So this thing, it's an entirely conventional action. It just moves forwards and backwards. We just move that pivot point.
You know, instead of power, what happens there? Like, it's going to be just moving up and down?
Yeah, so this is another unique feature of HX50, because every machine comes with a 2-axis autopilot and the haptic feedback on the controls. What you find if you look down here is both the cyclic and the collective have triggers.
Right.
So the way this works is to move the controls and to fly normally, you pull the triggers. And then if we take it in terms of the collective, when you release the trigger, that collective is going to stay exactly where you put it.
Beautiful.
Now, as standard, that's just a position hold function.
Okay, a couple thoughts on this. So the flight controls, whatever you think of the gooseneck cyclic, that's one thing. But flying in, so with the collective and the cyclic, you have to have triggers. That's actually pretty standard on bigger helicopters. The Sikorsky S-76 has these as well. You pull the triggers, you can move the flight controls. You can feel either way about them. I think that can be beneficial in certain ways. It's definitely different to get used to. So if you're flying any other helicopter that's never had these triggers for the flight controls, it can be a little bit weird to get used to, but it's a nice feature.
When you've got the 4-axis autopilot, there's some other higher order modes that will manipulate the position of the collective to hold the input target. So very, very conventional. In the wheeled version, obviously the pedals also have toe brakes as well, so that you can independently brake the two rear wheels as well as your anti-torque actions.
This looks very modern. Is it a fly-by-wire system? Because it looks super modern, or do we have more conventional system?
This was really important to hear. If it's fly-by-wire, or if it's conventional, fly-by-wire literally just means there's an electronic wire like any other wire that's sending signals to systems systems, to servos to make inputs, but he's going to explain that it is not a fly-by-wire system. It's a conventional push-pull rod physical system.
This
proven and tested.
This is a completely conventional flight control system. So this is a mechanical linkage. We have mechanical linkages under there in the center console. We use push-pull cables that run all the way through the nose, up the nose beam, and then up to the bell cranks in the roof. You pick up the hydraulic servos up there, and it's a conventional simplex hydraulic system with manual reversion. Very, very conventional. This fancy-looking cyclic just mechanically routes into the center of the panel there and does normal cyclic functions down to a couple of bell cranks, and again, up to the cables and through the nose.
So then quickly, we'll just listen to them talk about the avionics. I'll jump in where I think it's important. There's certain things that I like about the avionics. There's certain things I don't like. We'll let them talk for a little bit.
That's cyclic.
Okay, right.
Yeah, can we turn this on?
Yeah.
No, later. I
Let's
don't want to do that now.
No?
let's go flying, shall we?
You want to go flying now?
Yeah, let's go flying.
Okay.
So the startup procedure in HX50 is really, really simple. So you've got the start panel presented in the middle of the cabin. You flick the power to on, and then when you flick the avionics on, the screens come to life. So we've got a simple boot up screen, and then you'll be brought into a log on screen. Remember, we are trying to make general avionics
Very computer-like.
as easily accessible and simple as it can possibly be. So behind the scenes, the system manages your logbooks, the aircraft's technical logs, and all coordinate to the new digi cockpit.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so quickly, just what I picked up from the presentation. You can go watch the presentation on your own, but I'll just show you what I have learned from the presentation. So up here, you obviously have your airspeed, just a regular airspeed in knots. Over here, you've got your altimeter. So you've got a digital readout of your altimeter, and then like your typical kind of analog looking altimeter, your attitude indicator over here. Then down here, you've got your obviously your heading indicator, and then I guess this is your power system. I don't know if it's an FLI or a PLI, however they're going to call it, but this is just showing the amount of power that you're pulling up to 100%. So I guess this is 100. It's kind of blurry right here. And then you've got a 5-minute range and then a red range. So that's just showing how much power you're pulling. Over here, you've got your RPM. So your engine RPM, your rotor RPM, I guess that'll get a little bit more clear. I think this is fuel here. You've got radio frequencies down here. And
So if we've also got the iPad again, obviously presenting the iPad front and center in the cockpit.
Yep.
The guys like 4Flight and the other app developers, Oz Runways, for example, do an amazing job of collating all of the information you need for navigation, communication, weather, and all that. There's no point us competing with that. Let those guys do what they're good at. So we've
I like that you have an iPad here. I am an extreme 4Flight guy. I love 4Flight. I think it is probably the best app I have on my phone. It's extremely powerful, very good at what it does. It almost never fails. I love 4Flight, so I love that they like 4Flight too, and they built the system to have the largest iPad, and you can flight plan on the iPad. So like Misha's gonna say in the video, you can be like sitting on the couch, you can flight plan, you can go set this in the helicopter. The Hill GPS system will take the information from 4Flight and put that into the helicopter. You can pick up into a hover, turn on autopilot, and let it go, which is really nice, especially for like they're talking about the private clientele. Super easy, super safe, a great way to do navigation.
elected to have provision for the biggest, that's the largest iPad you can buy.
Love
so
it.
the biggest iPad right in the center of the cockpit there, and this one's running 4Flight. So that automatically syncs with the onboard flight control computer.
Okay.
So the navigation mode from the autopilot will pull that route down from the iPad.
So you could be sitting.
So I'm not going to go through and watch the whole video about their avionics, but one thing I do want to talk about, let's see here. I think it's at about 50 minutes they talk about this, yes. So they've got these beautiful screens, really awesome. They talk about down here all the different radio frequencies and how you can steer the helicopter with, I'm not exactly sure what their system is called, but it's like a heading knob. Like a lot of helicopters have, you can just change the heading and the autopilot will steer the helicopter. Very cool. But if any of the systems fail, you do have some hard lights for really crucial systems. So I'll let them explain that. Really important to have that.
Exactly. So
Okay.
it's completely separate from the cab of the
Let's talk about warnings for a second.
Okay.
So this is obviously a very sophisticated cockpit, and it's also important that you've got simple, high integrity hardware to give the pilot critical warnings. So on the top of the binnacle here, we've got a series of warning lights.
Yep.
So just the same as what you'd see in other similar turbine helicopters. So
Yep.
all of the usual suspects on there, and that is really simple hardware. It's a bulb and a wire connected to a sensor that tells you if something's working or not.
Right.
Now, in addition to this,
So really important, like I said, it's crucial to have like hard lights, clear lights. The screens are nice, but you can kind of get lost in the screens. If you've got a really big, bright orange, amber, or red light, that's really clear to the pilot, and I'm glad they thought about that. So before this video gets too long, I want to talk about probably the most crucial features is the engine and manufacturing. So they go through and they explain the engine. It's a great turbine engine. I don't think they're doing anything necessarily revolutionary. It's just a good, powerful turbine engine. They've obviously thought through it very well. There's some things to talk about with this engine. So building your own engine as a company is very challenging. The design of the engine is not the challenging part. It's the production of the engine and the certification and the testing and making sure it's redundant and building a new system so that you can buy like an off-the-shelf engine from Rolls-Royce or something like a lot of helicopters have, or Turbo Mecha, whatever. But building your own and testing it and making sure it's safe is very challenging. And I don't build helicopters, I just fly helicopters, and I think that this might be a very hard challenge. And what this leads into is the biggest thing, is manufacturing. Prototyping and designing a helicopter is the fun part, the exciting part, and building this prototype, don't get me wrong, that takes a lot of work, and designing the helicopter takes a lot of work, but the really, truly hard part is manufacturing. And to show this further, I'm going to play this clip from Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan Experience. Hopefully they don't copyright me either. But whatever you think about Elon Musk, he does have some really interesting points about engineering. And he's coming from Tesla, which is one of the biggest car companies in the world. You know, they've got all the money that they ever need to build a manufacturing process. And listen to how he talks about manufacturing. It's really important.
The hard part by far is manufacturing, not designing the...
So, like he said, it is challenging to build a design. You have to build a design of something that people want, that people will buy, and that's elegant and that works. I think Hill has made it that far. This is something that people want. There's a market for it. It's a good-looking helicopter. If they can actually produce it, they're in for success. I think they've got something good going. It is the manufacturing. Now, the scale that Tesla does on cars is much higher, so that you have to have obviously a larger manufacturing process. But for aerospace and airplanes and helicopters, the production quality has to be much higher than cars. So you have to have an extremely high quality production process. And if you want to be turning out thousands of helicopters, and I'm not an engineer, I'm not a manufacturing engineer, I really don't know that much about it, but what I can tell you is manufacturing is extremely difficult. Putting everything in place, and like I said, with building everything in-house like Hill is trying to do, the engine, the transmission, the helicopter, the whole fuselage, building everything in-house, I think they've done a lot. They've designed the helicopter, but like Elon Musk said, I cannot emphasize enough how hard, and I have to say how doubtful I am that the manufacturing of these helicopters is going to come easily. Now, I'm not saying they can't do it, but I think they're just in for a very challenging time period. So the fact that they made it this far is good, but they're in for a lot. So I'll quickly summarize my thoughts about the Hill HX50. I think it's a beautiful helicopter. I think they have a ton of innovations. I think there's a lot of systems and design things that they have put into this helicopter that make it really exciting. I think they are really on the precipice of something cool. I'm extremely happy to see that they have produced 2 prototypes, that they are full scale. They look really good. People got the opportunity to get inside, touch things. The digital software that looks like it's working good, and they've also obviously got their head on their shoulders. They know where they're going with the production process. So I'm really excited to see this. I think they've got the opportunity to do really cool things. I'm hesitant to say that I'm confident about the manufacturing process. I think if they can get one of these flying or 2 of these flying, the flood of money that they're going to have is going to be a really big deal. Obviously, they're making money right now, and they've definitely had some sales. But if they can get one of these flying, like a prototype version, flying, testing, that's a really big deal. That can make a big infusion of cash that can help the manufacturing process. So I think they're on the precipice of something good. I think they have the opportunity to either make this work really good, or this is probably the top of the mountain. I'm not saying that to be a hater or a doubter. That's just my honest opinions. I think they could go the way. This is also the point where things could start to fall apart, and it could become a really long process, or what they end up with is not nearly what they're saying right now. So I think they're really in a great spot. I think it's cool, but they definitely have an even bigger hill to climb right now. So that's the latest update with the Hill HX50. I think it's a beautiful helicopter. I want to know your thoughts down below. Let me know what you thought about this presentation, and let me know your thoughts on where they're at with the manufacturing process. If you think they will be able to manufacture these, especially at scale and at the cost that they're describing. You know, these are under $1 million helicopters. So to get this helicopter in your hands for under $1 million, let me know down below. I've obviously got my hesitations, but I want to hear your thoughts down below. If you enjoy this video, smash the like button, subscribe for all kinds of helicopter content, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.